Welcome to Declutter for Change, the podcast where we clear the visible and invisible clutter from your mind, body, soul, and home to make room for the life you actually want to live and love. I'm your host, Heather Clark. Today, we are joined by Christa Sutton to explore how to stop the cycle of over-adapting to roles that drain you and start aligning your life with your innate brain lead to finally break free from chronic burnout. Christa is the founder of Second Act Sisterhood and co-founder of the Ideal Personality Assessment. Since 2010, she has served as a coach, speaker, and trainer, helping women 50 plus redefine their next season of life through the lens of alignment and self-trust. Her work is rooted in the belief that burnout often stems from operating in ways that contradict our natural wiring, even when we think we're doing everything right. Through her grounded and insightful approach, Christa helps clients identify their innate brain lead to better manage their mental energy. By recognizing where they have been over-adapting, her clients find the clarity and relief needed to move forward with greater ease. She invites a refreshing perspective on personal growth that trades chronic exhaustion for authentic alignment and sustainable change. Hello, Christa. How are you doing today?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on today, Heather. I appreciate it.
Of course, of course. So what I'd like to know is, one of our topics that we're going to be discussing a little bit more today is innate brain lead, which totally, I was like, hey, cool. What is that? I definitely want to discuss that more because we're obviously talking about the audience that mostly listens to the podcast are high achieving women that try and do everything. And just as we were discussing off air, that sometimes those things that we try to do aren't things that are actually things that we are, naturally good at. So I'd like to know is how did you even get to teaching this, to helping women with this? And I know you were saying also that you help women 50 plus as well, and that's your target audience as well. So how did you get into this?
Oh my gosh, thank you for asking. So I have always been fascinated by personality assessments and being able to learn, being able to learn a little bit more about myself, but I've always had this driving force that I didn't understand why people didn't get along. I didn't understand why people with different personalities, why conflicts existed, etc. That was my initial fascination with them. And the more I studied different types of personality assessments and learned the different things that we could glean from them, that really got me interested in learning more about how was I originally wired. When I was born, what was my brain intending on doing when I was born versus, what I'm now asking of it.
Yeah. What was I actually here to do? But then society said otherwise. And now I've done that. Now I'm like, wait a second. Now I'm confused because naturally I'm pulled towards this, but yet somehow this is what I'm doing. So when it comes to the personality and stuff like that, and when you're doing or working with other women with different personalities, what was the biggest thing that you thought was like the most fascinating? Like, oh, that connection with everybody is why women overload their plate and try and do it all.
I think it was the discovery I had about myself because I thought that I knew who I was, had a pretty good inclination of, based on personality assessments, etc., that I had experienced. I had a pretty good grasp on who I was. And then I had the pleasure of, I moved to Boise, Idaho, about almost 11 years ago. And one of the first couples that I met when I first moved here are a couple by the name of Jamie and Marla Keller. They are tops in their industry. They are in the coupleship, relationship, intimacy industry, and they have actually been featured in documentaries alongside of Jack Canfield and others.
Nice.
And we immediately hit it off and became fast friends. And one of the things that a conversation that we had, I don't know, maybe a couple, 3 years after I moved here, I had been with a previous personality assessment and wanted to design my own. And they mentioned to me in a conversation, oh, didn't you know we have one? No. Please tell me more. What I learned from them, who are now my business partners, not just my friends, is that our brain, when we are very first born, our brain immediately starts to adapt. That's the way our brains are designed. And we adapt to everything around us, all of the external data that we take in. And sometimes that's for the better, and sometimes it is not. And women especially, we take on roles that we were not necessarily meant to take on. It's just our nature. And a lot of it is societal pressure. You know that, I'm sure.
Yep.
And when I first started working with them on it and started taking their assessment that they had built, it was so interesting to learn that I am not exactly who I think I am at all. And this is really fascinating. I'd also spent most of my life really dealing with burnout, and I couldn't figure out why, because I was doing all the right things, and yet I was still exhausted. And so that journey that I got to take initially with Jamie and Marla, and all that I learned was so pivotal in the way that I now operate, that I just want other women to be able to experience it, because we really do buy into the roles that we have created for us and that we accept for ourselves when they may not be the most aligned for us.
So I remember years and years and years ago taking an assessment for personality. Like, I know I did some in college, I did some after college, all that stuff. And it's funny because then I was answering questions and I got my answers. And okay, you're this person, you're very technical, you're very this, you're very whatever. And then there was a point, and I know it was after my divorce, and I was learning more about, okay, no, really, who are you? Who really are you? Not who do you think you are, or who are you trying to act to, like, and then my personality answers changed.
Yep.
And do you notice that a lot with the women that you work with, is that, they're like, oh, no, I already know who I am. I already know like what my answer is. And then all of a sudden they do the test and they're like, oh, wait a second. Right. And then they think about it and they're like, right, before I was answering as if what I should answer versus what is actually in my heart answer. So that I ended up finding out I'm more of like, instead of being the technical person that I thought I was, I'm like, no, you do feel like you do actually, you have the empathy, you have the feeling, you have all that stuff. Like, you listen to your body first and then you respond, as opposed to, oh, I'm going to do it because this is the way it does. And I don't believe it unless I see it. Like, those were things where I was like, oh, no. I actually do believe a lot more and I don't have to see it.
No, oh my gosh, this sounds like conversations I have almost daily with women. And what the thing that I love about the assessment that we developed, which is called Ideal Personality, is that it's not just you don't just take the test and you get the results. You graph them out and then we talk through it, because what we believe are things that are natural skill sets for us, or natural abilities, in fact, can be skill sets that we started learning as a kid. And what can happen is that, when we're born, one quadrant of our brain just lights up. And those are the things that when we do them, they come easily to us. They're fun. They're energizing. They don't take a lot of energy. They actually kind of rev us up, and that's wonderful. But when we do other tasks, we notice that, oh, this really drains me and I'm really tired. One thing that almost every conversation when I share with women, okay, when you notice that you're tired, what were you doing before? Because odds are that's actually what's exhausting you and not what you're doing right now. It's like the light bulb goes off. And you don't just do something the second you start it, you become tired. You actually have to use up your mental energy before you reach that point of, oh man, I'm just really wiped out. Well, okay, well, what were you doing like an hour ago? Let's have that conversation. And so it's not a check the boxes and answer things and go, woohoo, there's my answer. We're going to graph it out. And I know what I know what your graph should look like. Then I get to dive in and ask certain questions and help you kind of reframe some things. And it gets super fun when whether it's a client or who, if I'm doing a corporate training or whatever, and we get to have that conversation around, oh, you know what? Yeah, when I was in my first marriage, this happened, and I had to get really good at this, and I've just done it for so long, and it's so easy for me, quote unquote, easy for me. I don't think I realized how exhausting it really is. It's really not something I'm great at. I just had to get great at it.
So that is so crazy because I know, like, as you were saying and as you're talking and stuff, I'm like, oh, I know there's things that I'm fantastic at them, but I hate doing them. But because I thought, oh, it's just natural, like, oh, I'm just natural. I'm like, no, it's because you had no choice but to do it. Therefore, you force yourself to become natural at it. But then all of a sudden, like you said, once you do it, and then, an hour or so later, you're like, why am I so tired? All I did was that. And you're like, wait, that's what it is. You don't like it. Like, whatever it is, like for me, it's when I have to write something that's long form or anything like that. It's like, that doesn't come naturally. Like, I can do it for sure. Like, if I have to do it, I'm going to do it. That's just how it is. But
oh, heck yeah.
Yeah. But while I'm doing it, I don't realize. I'm just like, okay, here it is, here it is. But then by the end, I could tell, well, especially with mine, I could tell when frustration comes in. And I'm like, oh, wait a second. I'm frustrated with this. And I'm like, nope, and I fight through the frustration. And then I get like this super tired, super exhausted. Then I'm like, but I only worked on it for like an hour and it feels like I was doing it all day. Yep. And do you find like, I don't know, maybe there isn't, but is there something common, like a task or a job or whatever that you've noticed that women in particular, because I don't know if you work with men as well, but women in particular, that they have the same feeling? Like, mine is writing long form content. Is there things like that women take on that you've noticed is a very similar thing with a lot of women that they're like, oh yeah, that's so not me?
So typically with women, and here's where people tend to read into this. And they're like, oh, well, I'm a girl, so this, or, well, this isn't the role that I have, and so this is probably something that's making me tired. It doesn't depend as much on whether you're male or female. And I've worked with plenty of men. I prefer to work with women, hands down. Not that I don't like working with guys, but I just have always preferred working with women. Because we get each other. So
I was going to say, as a woman, you get it.
It's like, I'm a girl, I get girls, I totally get it. And so it's easier to have those conversations and get really real and be able to relate more, because there are things that, we only get because we're girls. So one of the things, again, isn't necessarily a male or a female role, but a lot of people fall into the left brain, right brain. Oh, I'm a left brainer. Okay, yeah, and you're a right brainer. Well, no, I'm a total right brainer. And you're a left brainer. I'm just going to say the science has proven you use your whole brain. Yep. And when I compare it to one very simple way to be able to identify what type of tasks, to just super generalize it, left or right brain, is when you think about, if you're like, I am a right brainer. And actually, you know what? I'm going to use me as an example. I totally believed that I was much more of a left brainer, incredibly logical. I was a list maker. I was a taskmaster. I was incredibly structured, scheduled, etc. And come to find out, that is the absolute last thing that comes naturally to me. It was a survival skill I had to develop for many reasons. Number one, my mother is that way. Wonderful. Therefore, she raised a child that conformed to that. Two, my first marriage was very abusive and controlling. And I lived in my survival mode. And the only thing I could control was my lists and the tasks and the things that my little tiny bubble that I could control.
Yep.
And so me learning, alongside Jamie and Marla that what? Wait, excuse me, I'm not this. What does this mean? I'm living a lie. I'm in my 50s, and now I'm finding that my entire life has been a lie. But it's incredibly freeing. And so what I do have conversations, I notice a lot, are helping men and women in particular, understand that you're both. You have attributes that are right brain. You have attributes that are left brain. The trick is to be able to identify which one of those is your lead, which ones you can adapt to relatively easily, which take a little bit more mental energy, but not a lot. And then the biggest kicker is, let's find out the ones that are depleting you. And more often than not, if you're living in burnout, you have probably accepted some of those as natural talents when you've worked your butt off to develop a skill because you had to, for whatever reason, a promotion you wanted, a relationship you were in, you became a mom, the list goes on. We have to develop things. And that's one of my favorite conversations, is getting to help women understand you're all of it. You're all of it.
And okay, so that just fascinates me, because when you're saying, like, okay, you said, like, I'm almost 50 and I'm just having an identity. Do you find that when these men and women go through these assessments and stuff, that all of a sudden, like, you just see, like, almost like a blank, like, I don't actually know who I am anymore then? Like, if this is like, and how do they go from, I have zero clue how I work, what I do, whatever, etc., to the point of, oh no, I know me, and I know me so well that no, you can't stop me from doing my stuff that I'm actually good at, versus, yeah, I'll do those things, but I know I'll only do 10 minutes as opposed to the hour on those tasks or whatever it is. Like, how do they go from the identity crisis to the, okay, now I'm calm again?
So one of the biggest, the most common conversations that I have is when there's that aha moment of, oh, okay, do I have to quit my job now? Do I have to, what do I do? Here's the thing. No, you don't have to quit your job. But now that you have this level of awareness and you know what energizes you, you know what depletes you, great. Then we get to dive in and have the conversation around, how can you manage your schedule so that you do the things that deplete you at whatever time, maybe whether it's a time of day or a day of the week, or, we navigate your schedule. One of the things that became so huge for me was understanding, I'm a Gen Xer. I grew up, you got to get the work done first, get the work done first. And so in my coaching business, I try to do all of my I would meet with my clients in the morning and loved all of that. And then in the afternoon, I'm going to tackle all of my techie stuff. And that didn't go well. That was frustrating.
That burnt me out beyond belief.
That was not fun at all. And what I learned is, in ideal personality, yes, it's discovering your brain lead. It's discovering how your energy flows in your brain. But it's also, it's a 3-part test. So you get to also learn more about and understand introversion and extroversion and how that flows with you and throughout your day. You also get to discover your sensory preference. You're learning. How do you learn? Are you more of that hands-on learner? Are you more visual? Are you kinesthetic? Are you auditory? All of that plays a part. But what I learned from me was, okay, wait a minute. The techie stuff exhausts me. It is not what I'm wired to do, but it is something I need to do, because all of us, we shine in about 20% of the tasks we do, and 80% of what we do is just outside of that range. It doesn't mean we stop doing them. We just have to navigate how we can do them without burning ourselves out.
Yep.
And so what I learned is, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do all my techie stuff in the morning. So anything that requires me to dive into that part of my brain that is not natural to me, which for me is more of the left brain, more of that detail, lower left part of my brain, that's, that detail and all the techie stuff. Because what I do know is that what lights me up is talking to people. And so I switched and I started meeting with clients, doing a podcast. Look at what time it is. because
And
it lights
why-
me up. It energizes me.
Yep.
And it comes so naturally to me that even if I got a little, overwhelmed and did some of the hard stuff and I was kind of tired, that's okay, because this brings me right back to where my energy lies.
Yep. Well, and that's one of the reasons why I do the podcast later on. And like you said, I do if I've got my social media posts to do, if I've got something to write, an email or whatever, I do that again in the mornings, because I know by about 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm like, I'm feeling a little like I don't want to do anything except for a nap sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm like, okay, nope, but you've got a podcast interview coming up or whatever. And that's what I do, because again, it's the same thing. It's like, okay, I don't want to do anything. I'm like, oh, but I got a podcast. I'm just talking. We're just having a conversation. We're doing this, and it lights me up as well. So this is why it became something that I was like, okay, Mondays and Tuesdays, because let's be honest, nobody really likes Mondays. So I was like, no, I like Mondays because now they are my podcast recording days.
I love it. I love Mondays. I'm so glad that we're doing this on a Monday. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, and that's it. Like, that's what, because I was like, I was the type that, because I was general manager, all that stuff. So days of the week, and I even had, at the time, a boyfriend that he got the Sunday jitters, because come Monday morning, he had to go to work, and that was starting a 5-day, whatever, blah. So he was obviously doing something he didn't actually want to do, but just had to do type thing. But I notice a lot of people do that. They get the jitters the day before, the day of, or whatever, etc., because it's something they already know and they're already resenting that they have to do. But again, it's something you have to do. So how can people work through that? And how have you helped people work through those parts? And, we discussed earlier about, certain days of the week, certain times of the day, but is there like even a time limit that you would even say to put on that particular task so that it doesn't become so overwhelming and you burn out?
That is a really good question. And I'm going to give almost a lame answer, because I wish there was a simple answer. I really do. I wish there was a clear, cut and dry, yep, this is what you do. Here's your tip. Now everybody go do it. It doesn't work that way for everyone. Everyone has their own, their own biorhythm. Everybody has their own personality, their own gifts and talents. And so being able to, for many people, doing things in 90-minute time blocks. I live with ADHD. And so I've learned some fabulous ways that work wonderfully for me, but I also have other people in my life that live with ADHD, and the things that work for me, that don't work for them. Yep. Time blocks can be very beneficial to some people. Reward systems can be great for some people. For me, it's almost a reward system for me to be able to get to, for me, the fun part of my job, the fun part of what I get to do is talking to people. That's what I love. I love getting to be, on podcasts, working with clients, having those kinds of conversations. So if you can find something that's going to motivate you and help you push through some of the yucky stuff so that you can get a little, invigorated, re-energized by doing the things that you love to do, that's always a great idea. And everyone's is different. I have one client in particular that's jumping in my brain. She will put her head down and work like an absolute beast for like 5 hours straight. I don't know how she does it. It's not how I am wired. I am a little in awe and highly envious, if I'm being honest, how she can absolutely just, this is the task and it's going to get done. But the sense of accomplishment that she feels when she gets done with it, that's worth it for her. Not everybody can do that. So again, wish I had a really cut and dry, hey, everybody go do this answer. I don't.
Like, even regardless of what it is, whether it's stuff that you work on, stuff that I work on with my clients and stuff, it's like, okay, yeah, it depends. But here are some options. And, like I said, for me, certain things in the morning are definitely like, I'm going to have to do the crap that I do not like, because I'm at least up, I'm doing it. Okay, fine. And then I can take the break. And I like you were saying, you do 90 minutes. I do 90 minutes, but I break it into 25-minute blocks. And I do this actually I do it with my members as well. Of when we declutter, is we declutter for 25 minutes, and then we take a 5-minute break. Go back to 25 minutes of decluttering, take a break, and we do 3 rounds of that, because again, it's that I don't want to do this, but I know I have to. I don't want to do this, but I gotta. So we do it in blocks like that because it's like, no, I can do this for 25 minutes. And then I get that 5-minute break. So that's my, dopamine of, okay, I take a break, whatever. If they finish that task, we do something else for the second round or whatever. So doing things like that helped me, and it helps my clients and stuff, because something so overwhelming can be brought down into like little chunks. And that's what you were saying with your 90 minutes as well. And the 5 hours straight, you know what? I could do that on certain things. And I have to be in a good mood. I had to have good sleep. I had to have eaten. This is why it's like, yeah, it depends. Yeah, it depends. Did you eat? That's my biggest one. Like when somebody's like, oh, I'm not feeling it, whatever. I'm like, all right, well, you energize, like, did you naturally energize your body to be able to do the task? Because if not, you're never going to want to do it.
I love that. I love that. For me, my non-negotiable that I preach this is sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Is sleep. If you are not getting good quality sleep, nothing else is happening.
Yep.
You can eat all the protein bars and exercise and do all the things and hydrate. But if you're not getting good restorative sleep, REM sleep and deep sleep, what are you even doing? That's number one. For me, that's number one. You tackle that, and then we're going to get you hydrated. We're going to make sure you're eating, and we're going to make sure you're moving, because that's going to solve probably 80% of your problems.
Yep. So right there. We're done. Podcast over. No.
There you go. You're welcome, everybody.
Exactly. But that's the thing. And we take those things for granted, because I know, especially I know a lot of women who do launches. They're like, no. Like, I work off 5 hours. Like, no, when I'm in a launch, that is the time I need like that 10-hour mark of sleep. Because if I don't get that, I am going to be so angry at the smallest thing that might go wrong, that has nothing to do really with what the outcome of the launch or anything. But it's just because of the sleep, and because I'm short fuse, and because I'm lacking any of the energy that, had I got my 8 to 10 hours of sleep that I normally usually do, I would have been fine. I would have been like, oh well, we'll figure it out. We'll send them out a DM if that's the case, if the link didn't work or whatever. Totally different things. And that's why I love the fact that you said that for yourself too, is that sleep is huge, because sleep is a huge part of our brain too. If you don't think they're connected, I'm here to tell you they are very much so. So in your thing with the, you called it the Innate Brain Lead. So what exactly is that for the listeners listening? What is that, and how do you figure it out? And obviously if it's part of the actual assessment, then, but just if you understand what I'm trying to ask, that'd be great. But
I actually do understand what you're trying to ask. So an innate brain lead is that is your actual wiring. The brain lead, what part of your brain lights up innately when you were born. That is your ground zero.
Gotcha. Okay.
In that brain quadrant. Now, about 25% of people actually have a co-lead. I'm one of them. But typically it's that one quadrant of your brain that just absolutely lights up. And so knowing what your innate brain lead is, knowing what your brain, how it was wired when you were born, before before it started adapting to all the stimuli, all the data, everything outside of you, that's your innate brain lead. And around 75% of the population, it is one of the 4 quadrants. Roughly 25% of the population have what's called a co-lead. But why that is so important is that when you can identify that innate brain lead, things start to make sense.
Okay.
Things really start to make sense. Because as I walk someone through, okay, so let me back up here quickly and hydrate, because we know how important that is.
Exactly.
You were asking, and please correct me if I misheard, when someone, let's say, takes the assessment, what is that process? What do they learn? How do they learn it? So someone takes the assessment, and the filter is Think back when you were a kid. Think back when you were a kid. What were the things, you're going to answer yes to those activities that meet 3 qualifications, at least one of 3 qualifications. Number 1, they come to you naturally. Think back to when you were a kid, not right now. They come to you naturally, they energize you, and they're fun. Do you have fun doing them? Earlier in our conversation, you talked about something you believed was a natural skill set and you hated it. Well, okay, by definition, not a natural skill. That's not a natural gifting if you hate it. But so many people, that's how most people think. Well, I don't like it, but I'm really good at it. Well, you had to get good at it.
And then that's what I said. Like, I realized later, like, oh, no, I just did this because it was something I had to do, because if I didn't do it, it wasn't going to get done.
Exactly. Yep. And the conversation I have with women, again, daily. Yeah, well, I had to do it. Well, okay, well, great. We all have things that we have to do. However, let's kind of pull that out of the equation and let's just use this filter. Did it come naturally to you? Did it energize you? And was it fun? Did you genuinely enjoy the thing that you were doing? If so, yeah, then you're going to answer yes to that, because that is probably something that actually does come naturally to you. And so being able to get the test results, then we graph them. And ideally, your highest score is going to be your brain lead. Your lowest score is going to be diagonally across from your brain lead.
So is it considered like more or less like whatever your brain lead is, it's usually like an opposite type thing that is the, okay, awesome.
So because the way that the brain is designed, so the brain has 4 quadrants, and obviously it's divided in 4. Now, energy travels, thoughts, energy, everything travels through your brain through synapses. Well, synapses can cross across one barrier, but it can't cut diagonally. And so in order to access the part of your brain that is opposite of your brain lead, it takes up to 10 times more mental energy.
Oh, wow.
So, and here's how I love to describe this. Jamie actually shared this with me forever ago. And when he described it, I'm like, I'm stealing it and I'm going to share it forever. And he said, please do.
Mine now. Thank you.
He shares it all the time too, but I'm like, I'm stealing it. He's like, it just because it makes sense. So pretend that your brain is the carnival. Okay. And you've got, there's 4 sections of the carnival. So let's say that the top right quadrant of your brain, since this is audio only, the top right quadrant of your brain, let's just say that that is your brain lead. Okay. And then you've got quadrants to the left and to the right. And then you have one that is completely diagonally from you. Okay. So you've got those 4 quadrants. Well, let's say that, again, the front right quadrant is your brain lead. So if your brain is a carnival, and I gave you $1 and let you go to the carnival, and you go to the quadrant that is your brain lead, all the rides cost a penny. You're going to ride the rides all day long. You're going to eat popcorn and corn dogs and funnel cakes. And I'm going to have to drag your butt out of there when the sun is going down because you don't want to leave. You're having fun. Now, I give you that same $1 and you decide that you want to go on the rides that are immediately to the left or to the right of your brain lead. Great. Those rides are about, they're maybe 10 cents each. You ride the rides, you have the treats, you have fun. But around 5 o'clock, you're like, that was an awesome day. And I kind of think I'm ready to go home. I'm tired now. Now, let's just say you're feeling a little adventurous and you want to go over to that other side, this opposite of what your brain lead is, and you want to go to that carnival. Well, the rides over there are 75 cents each. You get on the first one, you get a headache, you get off, you throw up your popcorn, and you're done. You want to go home. It's not fun. 0 out of 10. Do not recommend. That is a really good picture of
actually,
what,
I'm literally picturing
of what it looks like when we have to continually access our cross brain. when we have to continually access the part of our brain to do the tasks and skills that live there, that we say we're naturally good at, that we're not. And even though we're getting enough sleep and we are taking our vitamins and eating well and moving our body and hydrating and doing all of the right things, we're exhausted, we're burnout, and we don't know why. And for many women especially, that is why. I've worked with so many clients that are, oh, my doctor just says it's my hormones. I am not discounting that. I am not discounting that.
However,
it is not a blanket responsible answer.
Exactly. That's exactly it. It's not a blanket response. And we have heard that for how many decades of our adult lives, that it's a hormone thing.
I'm 58. I've been hearing it since I was in my 20s, and I'm sick of it, to be honest. Now, someone who's on the other side of menopause, oh yeah, hormones play a huge part. I'm not arguing that. However, there are so many other factors that can cause us to be fatigued, exhausted, overwhelmed, and burnout. And this is one of them.
Yep. Well, because like you were saying, like, it just sounds to me like it's a decision fatigue as well, matched up with the like the body fatigue, because when you're doing something that doesn't actually come natural to you, that you were just doing because of survival, well, to be in survival is so energy draining. To be in that, like, you know, fight or flight or anything like that moment, it's so draining. And to get out of it causes your body to have to use so much of its energy that it's like, yeah, no wonder, like, when I'm doing something I don't actually like to do, my brain gets foggy before my body does, because it's the decisions I have to make. It's the constant, like, thinking about what I have to do when I don't want to actually do it.
Oh, exactly. And keep in mind, your body only does what your brain tells it to do. Well, if your brain is depleted and exhausted, is the message getting through?
Yeah.
It's not. Or it's a convoluted message, or sometimes it's just, I don't care, do what you want.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, whatever. But that's the thing. Like, I think that's where, like, you know, as we were talking about the mind and the body connection, and, you know, your body's not going to do what your mind, you know, doesn't tell it to do, is sometimes we get that mixed up. We're like, oh yeah, just work for another hour and you'll be fine. Just do this for a little bit more longer and you'll be fine. Like, so our brain's telling our body, which our body's already like, white flag.
Yeah, just push through, push through. And it's something societally that we've been told our entire lives. Just suck it up, push through. You've got this. It'll be fine. Sometimes it's not fine. Sometimes it's not okay. Sometimes you need to actually rest.
Yeah. Well, and that, I think for me, and I'm sure a lot of my listeners too, is rest felt awkward.
Rest feels wrong.
Yeah. Rest felt awkward because of, again, growing up in, whether, you know, for me, I was in a lot of management jobs and a lot of, like, you know, all throughout my 20s and 30s and stuff. I was like, yeah, no, I just did what I had to do. And when I was resting, I was like, well, no, there's got to be something I can do, because to me, rest meant awkwardness, because I didn't at the time. Now I'm like, oh, rest. Oh, I can rest now. Sometimes, actually, I'm not going to lie.
Olympic medal in rest, yeah. But I totally get it though, because especially as women, you know, it can feel awkward. Rest, the messaging that we've been getting most of our lives is that rest is wrong. How many of us have heard, yeah, I'll sleep when I'm dead?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but that's not how that works. You need to rest so that you can function properly, so that your brain is working, so that your body can work, so that fill in the blank.
Yeah. Like, it's literally, so when you think about exercise, you're not building muscle as you're doing it. That muscle is being built as you rest.
Bingo.
What do you think our brains are? It's a muscle.
It's a muscle.
So, like, you have to also, as much as we want to push through, we also have to allow it to rest, to get, and even if rest means that you're just creative with something that is so off brand, that is so not something you'd normally do, that, you know, throw paint onto a canvas type thing, like just allowing your body to not think about the daily tasks, about the, what the family needs, what you need, what the business needs, what your clients need. Just something that allows your brain to just rest. And creativity, I find, is one of those biggest things. Like I had our podcast episode about coloring, how coloring can just be one of those things.
Yes.
Yeah. Like adult coloring, we don't give it enough, emphasis that yes, that can help too. Adult, like any of those, what do they do? The paint and wine or wine and paint or whatever those
Those are huge.
Yeah, those are huge because A, they're fun. B, you also get to interact with other people while doing it. And it's also just something that you can rest your brain because you're not overthinking about what business meeting you have the next day or, what the client work you have to finish, this week and stuff like that. So it's just something like that. So audience, please find something that allows your creativity and your rest to actually happen.
Well, and also I love, that's such a great point. I love that you bring that up, is rest for many people. Again, this is kind of what we were taught, is rest is doing nothing. Rest is, sitting on the couch and watching TV. Rest is sleeping. Rest is, that is not what rest is. Mm-hmm. Rest is not lazy. Rest is restorative. It's right there in the word, restorative. That's what rest is intended to do. And sometimes, yes, it's sleep. And sometimes, yes, it can be, I think I'm going to sit down and binge watch this Netflix show. But more often than not, rest is going to be doing something outside of what the normal is. Sparking something that's creative. It can be journaling. It can be coloring. It can be, for me, rest is having coffee with a girlfriend and not talking shop.
Yep.
So rest comes in whatever form that it is that you need it to be, in whatever way that when you complete it, you know that you've rested. You feel your energy coming back.
Yes. And you don't feel resentful. You don't feel guilty. You don't feel any of those emotions. It's just okay, good. This is great. Now I can go back to whatever I was doing, or tomorrow I know I'm good. We'll do that tomorrow or whatever. And you can, like, when you've rested properly, I find, especially because I know I've only done this a few times lately, but when you rest properly, you're not in an emergency, things have to get done mindset.
Mm-hmm.
You know that, yep, I've got a meeting, sure, no problem. I've already planned that, and I've already planned 15 minutes after, just in case it goes over. Cool. And you're more relaxed. Like your whole entire nervous system is more relaxed when that rest is actual rest. And then I find as well that when I force myself to do the rest, when I'm like, but I really want to finish that and I really want to, whatever, that rest is not real rest whatsoever.
I love that. Oh, I absolutely love that. That is completely spot on, because again, it's, if you've done something that you define with air quotes as rest, but when you complete it, you feel guilt, you feel like you wasted your time, you feel, feeling your own negative emotion, it wasn't rest.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but if you think about it, okay, so you're like, our brain and our body and everything is not supposed to actually multitask. So if while you're resting, you're thinking about the client meeting you have or that or whatever, that's not rest. That's multitasking.
Alert.
Yeah, exactly.
That is definitely multitasking. I think it's hilarious. I used to think that I was like the world's best multitasker until I learned that actually, no, multitasking isn't a thing. People who think that it is, just, they're doing lots of things half-heartedly. They're not really devoting the time and energy, and it's exhausting. If you're attempting to multitask, if you're trying to do multiple things, that is a surefire, simple path to burnout, because then you're doing a lot of things poorly instead of doing one thing well.
Well, what just came to my brain just now, it's like you're trying to race 3 cars to the finish line. So you start in one car, you get it revved up, you start going, okay, you got to go, okay, back to this one, and you go into the second one, you get it up to a certain point. Okay, now the third one, oh, back to this first one. None of those cars are getting over that finish line.
No, that's a great visual. I love that.
Literally just came to my brain, and I don't know why that just came to my brain, but I was like, oh yeah, no, that's like trying to race 3 race cars, as opposed to
100%.
that one race car. You jump in, you start it, you go to the end of the line, then you come back, and then you start the second one, and then third. That's what it's like. I'm actually going to use that from now on when it comes to multitasking, because
I love it. I think it's genius.
Because
it is.
I've never heard it anywhere.
I haven't. I really like
one
it.
of these days.
Yeah, go ahead and get that thing trademarked.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I find that this is actually really good. Speaking of getting to the end of the line, we're actually this is a good spot to actually ask for the listeners listening today or tomorrow or in the future, what is something that they can take away today and something that they can use for their mind, body, soul, and home to do with the brain, the personality, figuring these things out about themselves and the information that they get?
So, I love that question. So, awareness. This applies to all 4 pillars. This is something I've challenged clients to do, and it is one of the most fun experiments. It might be a little frustrating while you're doing it, but it's one of the most fun experiments to do, because I found myself years ago not able to figure out exactly what was like burning me out. It was when I was kind of in this zone of, I got to figure this out. Like I will get in the weeds with stuff. And when I had that awareness, when I learned that, oh, wait a minute, this is not actually my brain lead. This is my brain lead. Okay, now I feel like, okay, now I have to figure everything out. Mm-hmm. And it was incredibly overwhelming, as it can be to some people. And so what I did and what I suggest to others is this, and you can apply this to all 4 of these pillars. Take one day, have a notebook with you, just a little, doesn't have to be anything big, a little notebook, and pay attention as you go throughout your day. When do you feel energized? Write down what you're doing. Then write down what you were doing before. When do you feel depleted? Write down what you're doing, and then write down what you were doing before. Pay attention to the activities, the people, this is important, the activities and the people and the places where you experience both energy and depletion. Because sometimes a task may or may not deplete you with this person, but it depletes you with that person.
Mm-hmm.
So
who you surround yourself with is huge.
So I can have a similar conversation with one person and I feel very energized because we're very aligned with one another. I can have a similar conversation or attempt to have a similar conversation with someone else and I'm exhausted. Does that mean that people tire me out? No. Mm-hmm. It means that in certain scenarios, okay, when I'm trying to have a conversation and I feel like I'm having to force a conversation, when I feel like I'm not being heard, respected, valued, whatever that is in that moment, okay, that plays a big role.
Yep.
And so as you are, as you're maybe on a Saturday and you're going through and you're cleaning your house and you open up a drawer and you just, and you close it again because you don't even want to look at it, write that down.
Yep.
Pay attention.
And then call Heather. No.
Yeah, and then call Heather because you need Heather. But just, with, mind and body and soul and home, all of it, especially because women, even those of you that are left brainers, we are still emotional beings.
Yep.
And so pay really close attention to just how you feel around certain people in certain environments and doing certain activities. It'll tell you a lot more about yourself than I think you realize.
I love that. I love that. And yes, I absolutely agree, because you can have literally almost the exact same conversation with one person versus the other. And like you were saying earlier about how personalities, like, the clash of certain people, not realizing that that's actually what's draining you. And having that awareness, like you said, like just being aware, like, okay, yeah, so when I have this conversation with this person, cool. I'm not going to put my guard up, but I'm also not going to try and force more into it than what's being given. Cool. I'm cool with having this conversation. But again, at the end of it, I just know, nope, I'm not going to let it drain me. I'm not going to let it do whatever. That awareness is huge. So do you have one last tip, one last little life quote or anything like that before we go for the listeners?
Ooh, that's a good question. One last tip. I would say that, this is what I'm going to say. I would say that anytime you find yourself feeling overwhelmed, stretched too thin, feeling burnout, frustrated, just give yourself some grace. I think especially as women, that is something we are so wonderful, Heather, at giving grace to everybody else.
Yep.
Give it to yourself. And I am not saying let yourself off the hook for everything. That's not what grace is. Grace is just loving where you're at in a moment and being okay with it and being okay with you. So that would be my one last tip, is give yourself some genuine, honest grace.
I absolutely love that. And I know a lot of listeners listening definitely need to do that for themselves, because they are very much hard on themselves when something doesn't go exactly the way they expect it. So thank you so much, Christa, for joining us. This was such a beautiful conversation and was actually enlightening for myself as well, because I was like, okay, what is this brain lead thing? So thank you so much for joining me. And any links or anything like that from Christa will be in the show notes, listeners. So catch her there as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Heather. I appreciate it.